Hey there, my friend. Glad to have you here again, because today's topic is one of those that every Cowboys fan loves to talk about, the NFL Draft. And this year, the 2025 Draft has a whole different weight for us. Why? Because Dallas holds the 12th overall pick, and that's a position that can truly shape the next phase of this franchise. Now, let's set the stage real quick. The free agency period is basically wrapped up. The front office made some moves, but there's still a sense that this roster has key gaps. Depth, star power, and long-term building blocks all still very much in play. And that's exactly where the draft becomes a game changer. Pick number 12 is interesting. It's not high enough to guarantee a generational prospect, but it's also not so far down that you're just hoping for a hidden gem. It's that sweet spot where smart teams make bold moves and contenders find the missing piece. For the Cowboys, it could be the difference between just another playoff run or finally building a true Super Bowl contender. But here's the thing. This year's draft is wild. There aren't many consensus elite names. Rankings are all over the place, and what one team sees as a top 5 talent, another might view as a late first-rounder. That unpredictability makes things even more exciting. So let me ask you this. Which position do you think the Cowboys need to address the most in this draft? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I'll be reading what you have to say. All right, now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the most exciting part, the top names that could change everything for this team. All right, now that we've laid out the context, let's talk about what really gets fans hyped, those elite names. The kind of players who don't just fill a need, but who come in and change the game from day one. If the Cowboys get lucky and one of these three is still on the board at 12, it could be a home run. Let's start with Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. This guy? He's a monster in the trenches. Think of him like a young Christian Wilkins, strong, disruptive, and relentless. He's not just a run stuffer. He collapses pockets and wrecks plays before they even develop. With how much the Cowboys have struggled to consistently control the interior, Graham could finally be that presence that forces offenses to rethink their entire game plan. Just imagine him lining up next to Osa Odigizua and Micah Parsons. That's a scary front. Now, if you're thinking offense instead, then Tedairoa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona, has to be on your radar. He's got size, length, and elite ball skills. Honestly, he gives off serious T. Higgins vibes. He's not your typical speedster, but he wins at the catch point, and he's exactly the kind of WR2 that could unlock even more from CeeDee Lamb. And let's be honest, Gallup hasn't been the same, and Brandon Cooks isn't getting younger. McMillan could be the future alongside Lamb, giving Dak, or whoever's under center in the future, a legit duo. And then there's a name that's been quietly rising up boards, Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. I know what you're thinking. First-round running backs? Risky, right? But Jeanty is different. He's a complete back with insane contact balance and burst. Think LaDainian Tomlinson, not just in production, but in versatility. He catches out of the backfield, he breaks tackles, and he just refuses to go down. With Tony Pollard gone, and no true RB1 on the roster, Jeanty could bring that spark back to the Cowboys' run game. Now I want to bring you into the conversation. Let's say both McMillan and Jeanty are available at pick 12. Who would you take? Type TM for McMillan or AJ for Jeanty in the comments right now. Let's see which side the fan base is leaning toward. Each of these three players brings a different kind of impact. Graham would instantly boost the defense up front. McMillan gives us a long-term solution in the passing game. And Jeanty brings that explosive dual threat out of the backfield. No matter the direction, this is the type of pick that shapes your identity for years to come. But what if those guys are already off the board? Or what if Dallas goes in a different direction entirely? Let's look at the other names who might not be flashy but bring a ton of value and could still be exactly what this team needs. So let's say the Cowboys' dream targets are gone by the time they're on the clock. What then? That's where smart drafting comes in. identifying players who may not have the same headline appeal but bring tremendous value at critical positions. And believe me, there are some names that deserve serious attention. Let's kick this off with Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. Now, I know tight end might not feel like a pressing need with Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker in the mix, but Warren brings something different. A rare combination of size, football IQ, and smooth route running. He's got that Jason Witten feel in terms of reliability and toughness, but with a little more athleticism, closer to Greg Olsen in terms of upside. He's a red zone threat, he blocks with authority, and he's the kind of player that makes life easier for any quarterback. Drafting Warren would be about elevating the entire offense, not just filling a depth chart. Now, if you're more defense-minded, there are two cornerbacks who deserve a long look. First up, Will Johnson from Michigan. This kid might just be a future CB1. He's got length, speed, and instincts, the kind of traits that can't be taught. Some scouts are already comparing him to Xavier Howard. He plays with confidence, tracks the ball like a receiver, and isn't afraid to get physical at the line. With Stephon Gilmore aging and Jordan Lewis possibly on the way out, Johnson could be the next cornerstone in the secondary. But if Johnson is gone or the Cowboys want a slightly different profile, Jahdae Barron out of Texas is another excellent option. He's more of a hybrid, part nickel corner, part safety, and that versatility could be huge in Dan Quinn's old system or even under a new defensive coordinator. He's fast, instinctive, and explosive. Barron could step right into that slot role and bring an edge we've been missing since Lewis's peak years. Now here's something to think about. The Cowboys don't always go flashy in the first round. They often favor players with solid value, position flexibility, and high football IQ. That's been a trend under Will McClay's influence in the war room. So let me ask you this. Would you be comfortable taking a cornerback at pick 12? Drop a yes or no down in the comments and tell me why. Are you all in on adding defensive backs early, or would you rather invest elsewhere? The beauty of this draft class is that while it may not have 10 clear-cut stars, there are plenty of high-floor, scheme-fit players who could end up being long-term difference makers. Warren, Johnson, Barron, they might not be the most talked about names, but don't be surprised if one of them ends up making waves in the league. But hey, what if Dallas plays it differently altogether? What if the real move is trading down, or finally investing heavy in the offensive line again? Let's dig into that next. All right, now let's get into one of the most intriguing possibilities, trading down. What if, instead of making a splash with the 12th overall pick, the Cowboys decide to slide back a few spots and collect more draft capital? It's not a flashy move, but it's a smart one, especially in a draft like this, where the talent from picks 12 to 25 feels pretty even. Trading down could mean gaining an extra second or third round pick, and that could be huge for addressing multiple roster needs like depth at linebacker, corner, or even running back later in the draft. But of course, there's always a risk. If you trade back, you might miss out on that one. Difference maker who could have changed everything. It's a delicate balance. More picks versus top-tier talent. Now let's talk about a position the Cowboys can't afford to ignore any longer. Offensive line. It's been years since Dallas truly invested high in the trenches, but with Tyron Smith aging and future depth uncertain, this might be the perfect time to get ahead of the curve. Names like Armand Membou, Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Amarius Mims, or even Josh Simmons could all be in play, depending on how the board shakes out. These are guys with massive upside who could anchor the line for the next decade. Plug-and-play tackles or versatile linemen like Membou could be a quiet but brilliant pick. So here's a question for you. Would you trade the 12th pick for more selections, or would you stick and take a top offensive lineman? Drop your vote in the comments. Trade or O-line, I really want to hear your take on this one. But hey, what if the Cowboys do neither and simply go with the best player available, even if it's a bit outside the box? Let's explore that wild card scenario next. Now let's say the Cowboys go off script, not reaching for need, not trading down, but simply taking the best player available. That's the BPA strategy, and it's always part of the conversation, especially when there's uncertainty on the board. Sometimes the best move isn't about filling a gap, but grabbing a talent you simply can't pass up. Let's throw out a few wild card names that could sneak into the conversation. What if a top-tier wide receiver like Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, or Matthew Golden is sitting there at 12? Even with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks, adding another dynamic weapon could keep this offense explosive for years. Or maybe the pick is a front four disruptor. Names like Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, Kenneth Grant, or Jalen Walker bring serious power to the defensive line. They may not be the flashy picks, but they're the kind that win games in the trenches. And hey, what about real outside-the-box bets? A versatile safety like Malik Starks, a hybrid linebacker like G.A.D. Campbell. These are the kind of picks that raise eyebrows on draft day but can pay off big. So tell me, if you were in Jerry Jones's seat, who would you pick at 12? Drop your name in the comments. I'm dying to see how you'd shape this roster. And hey, if you've made it this far, you're a real one. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with another Cowboys fan. If we hit our goal of likes, the next video will be a full mock draft simulation. Let's make it happen. Together.